It's Monday, June 8th, and this is now on HNN.
So even though we don't know them, we still stand with them.
Mourners will pay their final respects to George Floyd. I'm Danya Backus in Houston, Texas, where a memorial is underway.
This as Black Lives Matter protests here at home drew thousands statewide.
That's what the Aloha Spirit is about. That's what Hawaiian is about. We're standing together in this.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill debate a sweeping overhaul of police reforms nationwide. I'm Skyler Henry at the White House, where President Trump meets with law enforcement leaders from across the country.
There won't be defunding. There won't be dismantling of our police.
Getting back to work. I'm Michelle Medina with how technology is being used to reduce the spread of coronavirus while helping businesses stay open.
And a high-tech solution for taking selfies while social distancing. Coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon, the time's now 12:19. You're watching This Is Now. I'm your director, Jonathan, alongside Ashley here. We want to get to the very latest developments involving the death of George Floyd.
That's right, the final public memorial for George Floyd was held today in Houston, where he grew up. Danya Backus reports.
One by one, mourners, including members of law enforcement, filed past George Floyd's casket, paying their respects at a public viewing in Houston.
It was just terrifying for me to see how that officer did this guy.
I'm just so tired of people dying unjustly.
Floyd grew up in the city and later moved to Minneapolis, where he died 2 weeks ago in police custody. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Texas Governor Greg Abbott both met privately with his family and offered their condolences.
I wore this tie on purpose because this is the color of Houston Yates, where George Floyd was a tremendous athlete. So this is in honor of George Floyd and his commitment to athletics here in the Lone Star State.
The viewing here in Houston is the last public event to honor George Floyd, whose death touched off massive protests nationwide against police brutality.
The American public is responding to this murder in a way that validates human life. Everyone has stopped and paused and said, can we make this one the last one?
An invitation-only memorial service and private burial for Floyd will be held in Houston Tuesday. Danya Backus, CBS News, Houston.
Local protests drew thousands this weekend statewide. Lacey Denise continues our team coverage.
Over the weekend, thousands of people joined in protests across the state, standing in solidarity with the national Black Lives Matter movement. The largest of events took place on Oahu. An estimated 10,000 people took part in a peaceful rally at the state capitol.
Just to be around it, it's really inspirational. I'm just happy to be around, just so many people of different walks of life.
We have our problems, but it's not a systematic killing of unarmed men based on race. Hawaii has a training issue with some of these officers, but for the most part, man, what's going on in our police department ain't the same thing going on in the mainland.
Some of those participants later placed their signs outside the Hawaii Republican Party's headquarters along Kapi'olani Boulevard. Party chair Shirlene Ostrov says she was there and says the signs were only up for about an hour before some protesters, along with herself, a party member, and the building manager, began clearing the area. Ostrov says the party respects the demonstrators' right to a peaceful protest.
We really do grieve with our Heart-Sick Nation. We want to remind everyone it's in our core values that no American should be excluded by the liberty that America provides.
And yesterday, a large group of surfers paddled out into the ocean off Ala Moana Beach Park. They were there to remember George Floyd, who was killed while in police custody. We estimate that thousands of people were in the water and on the shore. This as we head into week 3 of nationwide protests.
The majority of city council members in Minneapolis have promised to dismantle the city's police department and replace it with a new system of public safety. The plan still faces hurdles, including opposition from the city's mayor, Jacob Frey. He appeared at a rally Sunday where protesters chanted, quote, "Jacob, go home." The mayor favors major police reform as opposed to dismantling the department. Other cities are also rethinking policing, including Los Angeles and New York City. Meanwhile, back here at home, Mayor Caldwell announced his nominees to serve on the Honolulu Police Commission.
2 we're going to announce now. There's 1 we're still vetting. And as we make these appointments, we got to be cognizant of the time. This time of Black Lives Matters. Across the nation, people are asking, no, they're demanding fair application of law by police forces around our country that understand and are sensitive to the culture and circumstances of our communities. We expect no less here in the city and county of Honolulu. And we expect our commission to reflect these concerns. That's why today I propose the confirmation by the Honolulu City Council the appointment of Michael Broderick and Doug Chin to fill 2 of the 3 vacancies.
You may recall the 2 most vocal Honolulu police commissioners have resigned recently. We'll have more on this coming up on our evening newscast.
This just in, the Minneapolis police officer charged in George Floyd's death will remain in police custody. He was just in front of a judge moments ago. Nancy Chin picks up the story.
Ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin made his first court appearance Monday afternoon via video conference from the maximum security prison where he is being held. The judge kept Chauvin's bail at $1 million. It was raised from $500,000 last week when prosecutors added a charge of second-degree murder. Chauvin said almost nothing during the 11-minute hearing, and his attorney did not contest the bail increase. The hearing comes exactly 2 weeks after Chauvin pressed his knee to the neck of George Floyd for nearly 9 minutes. Activists are demanding an independent special prosecutor in the case.
So we have absolutely zero confidence in the Hennepin County attorney to be able to help deliver justice in this case.
3 other officers present at the scene are charged with aiding and abetting murder and remain jailed on $750,000 bond. Chauvin's next appearance is set for June 29th. Nancy Chin, CBS News.
The CDC says it's closely monitoring these demonstrations. Health officials are concerned that these large gatherings will lead to outbreaks. They're also worried about the use of tear gas and other agents, which could cause people to cough. Health officials are asking anyone who participated in protests to consider getting evaluated for the illness. The state's Lieutenant Governor Josh Green is urging residents to be cautious when exercising their First Amendment rights.
Freedom of speech is too important to ever give up, but if people can wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart, it would be good. Definitely, people aren't fully socially distancing, and, without social distancing, you're going to see some increases with crowds like that.
Congress is tackling the issue of police reform today, unveiling legislation to bring more accountability and transparency to departments across the country. Skylar Henry has the details from the White House.
People protesting racial inequality and police brutality gathered in the nation's capital for the 11th day in a row.
Thank you very much.
While at the White House, President Trump held a roundtable with members of the law enforcement community.
Sometimes you'll see some horrible things like we witnessed recently, but 99.9, but let's go with 99% of them are great people.
Attorney General William Barr said on CBS Face the Nation that police departments as a whole aren't the issue when it comes to racism.
I think there's racism in the United States still, but I don't think that the law enforcement system is systemically racist.
Florida Congresswoman and former police chief Val Demings pushed back.
I believe that is just a talking point. When you fail to publicly admit that there is a problem, then it is extremely difficult to address the problem.
On Twitter, President Trump ramped up attacks against Democrats over some protesters' calls to defund the police.
There won't be defunding, there won't be dismantling of our police.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House will not consider defunding police agencies, calling it a local matter. Earlier, the Speaker, along with the House and Senate Democrats, held an 8-minute, 46-second moment of silence in memory of George Floyd before introducing a police reform bill.
A profession where you have the power to kill should be a profession that requires highly trained officers who are accountable to the public.
Among the changes, the bill would ban the use of chokeholds to subdue suspects and make it easier to prosecute officers for police brutality. Even if it passes the Democrat-controlled House, the measure likely faces an uphill battle in the Republican-controlled Senate. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Over the weekend, at least 6 continents saw largely peaceful demonstrations. CBS's Ian Lee reports from London.
A river of anger and frustration flowed past the U.S. Embassy in London on Sunday. Despite coronavirus restrictions, thousands gathered in support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
I'm sick of having to explain to my children that because they're black, they have to act a certain way, they have to behave a certain way, they have to work 10 times harder to get anywhere in life. And I've had enough of it. I don't want it for their children.
Later in the day, a small number of protesters clashed with police, leading to a handful of arrests. In Bristol, protesters tore down a statue of a 17th century slave trader, a symbol of Britain's racist past, given a watery grave. This anger against racism has quickly spread across the globe. In Brazil, protesters in masks condemned police violence in their own communities, while people in Sydney focused on the treatment of Indigenous people. The country had its own George Floyd, David Dungay, who died in prison in 2015 shouting, "I can't breathe."
At the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing, which is basic human rights.
A message of unity as Black Lives Matter becomes an international rallying cry of solidarity and change. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Here at home, the state health department is reporting just one new COVID-19 case today, a patient on Oahu. That brings the statewide total to 676. More than 90% of patients have been released from isolation, and Hawaii's death toll stands at 17.
It's good to see those low numbers today. We saw a couple of days where they were inching up there a bit, but back down to just one case today. Hey, here's some good news, folks. New York City has begun to reopen. This is after more than 3 months of being in lockdown like so many other places. They're calling this phase 1. Tom Hansen has the story.
As the nation's largest city entered phase 1 of reopening, many stores opened their doors for the first time in 80 days.
Super exciting to be back in the space. We're looking forward to seeing all our customers again.
But boutique owner Henry Myers says shopping at his store, Maison 10, will look very different with limited curbside and in-store pickup.
Right now, we are doing our by appointment only.
Construction like this project resumed in the city as part of phase 1. Wholesale and manufacturing are also included. New York became the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, the worst hit region in the entire world. The city has logged more than 204,000 positive cases and over 22,000 deaths. Saturday, there were just 6 reported deaths.
We are continuing our decline. The rest of the country is still spiking. Good to be back, right?
Yes, it is. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo checked out a city subway station Monday morning. The system is back up and running at full capacity to help service up to 400,000 employees who are returning to work. Masks are mandatory. More than 1 million free face coverings will be distributed. 25,000 gallons of sanitizer are also on hand. With New Yorkers back, there is concern the virus will return as well.
We know that the reopening means more and more people will be close to each other. We need to get it right. So if we would like reopening, we got to stick with it.
Protests over police brutality this past week led Governor Cuomo to urge demonstrators to get tested. The city aims to test 35,000 people a day. Tom Hansen, CBS News, New York.
Governor Ige is expected to make an announcement on reopening travel to people outside of Hawaii this week. Ige is also expected to extend the quarantine for out-of-state travel beyond June 30th, but state officials had previously said they're looking at possible travel bubbles. That could mean allowing visitors from areas with low infection rates like Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. Hawaii's hotel industry told the governor it needs at least a month to prepare for an influx of visitors.
Speaking of New Zealand, the Prime Minister there said she did a little dance today when she heard the country is coronavirus free.
Today there are no active cases in New Zealand. We have tested almost 40,000 people for COVID-19 in the past 17 days and none have tested positive. We have had no one in hospital for COVID-19 for 12 days. It's been 40 days since the last case of community transmission, 22 days since that person finished their self-isolation. We are not immune to what is happening in the rest of the world. But unlike the rest of the world, not only have we protected New Zealanders' health, we now have a head start on our economic recovery. We are confident we have eliminated transmission of the virus in New Zealand for now, but elimination is not a point in time. It is a sustained effort. We almost certainly will see cases here again. And I do want to say that again. We will almost certainly see cases here again. And that is not a sign that we have failed. It is a reality of this virus. But if and when that occurs, we have to make sure, and we are, that we are prepared. I did a little dance. Definitely not.
Without large-scale quarantine policies, health experts say there would have been 60 million more coronavirus infections in the U.S. The scientific journal Nature used data from the pandemic in the U.S., China, South Korea, Italy, Iran, and France. Without shelter-in-place orders from January through early April, there would be collectively about 500 million new cases in those countries. Researchers did not estimate how many deaths might have been prevented. The authors did say they can't think of any human endeavor that has saved so many lives in such a short period of time.
All right, I've experienced this. We're talking about mask rash. We've all learned this now that the masks are the new norm. They're not that comfortable and they can be irritating to your skin. Naomi Ruckham talked to dermatologists about what you can do to keep your skin healthy.
Across the country, frontline healthcare workers are sharing photos like these, showing what can happen after wearing a mask for hours at a time.
These little bumps all around their mouth, or they have breakouts on their chins.
Constantly washing my face, constantly. The itchiness, the redness.
Some nurses have coined the term cozits. Others are calling it maskne.
I love that word because it's so true. And, I would have little breakouts around my mouth, which never really happened. So it was kind of weird, but I knew that's exactly what it had to be from.
With many areas now encouraging people to cover their faces in public, many of us are also dealing with skin irritation. Dermatologist Dr. Rajni Kata at Baylor College of Medicine says when selecting a mask, it's important to choose the right material for your skin type.
If you're prone to acne, you might want to stay away from things like polyester that traps sweat and that might lead to acne outbreaks. On the other hand, if you've got sensitive skin or if you have a tendency to eczema, then you might want to think about softer fabrics, maybe something more like cotton.
Washing those reusable masks regularly is critical because they collect sweat and microbes from your skin.
I'm recommending fragrance-free laundry detergent for all of my patients with sensitive skin, and even for some of them that don't have sensitive skin, because fragrance can be irritating.
Use hot water to wash and high heat to dry to kill off all those germs. And Dr. Kata reminds that washing your face and using a good moisturizer is key for healthy skin. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Like I said, I definitely experienced this. Last week, I think it was earlier in the week, I had been wearing the mask all day and I'd been outside running around a little bit, so got a little probably moisture and sweat accumulation there, and my eyes just puffed up right around here. Like, it was really, really obvious. I came back and someone in the newsroom was even like, "Whoa, your eyes are swollen."
Oh,
so,
no. Yeah, I try to wash my mask at least after one use, just because we wear a lot of makeup too for news.
Definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we need to do it, but I'm waiting for the day when we don't.
I really feel for our healthcare professionals who have to wear it constantly through their shifts.
That picture of the N95 wear, it just looks painful, painful. All right, let's talk about Airbnb. There's some updates there with that company.
That's right. They're making a huge comeback, another sign that summer travel is rebounding. Now, the company says it's seeing a surge in bookings as customers emerge following months of being cooped up due to the pandemic. Now, Airbnb says it got more U.S. bookings between May 17th and June 3rd than the same time period a year earlier, which included Memorial Day. The takeaway appears to be that Americans seem to be ready to travel domestically anyway. The company's CEO says customers appear appear to be sticking to drivable locations within 200 miles of their homes. Officials also say people are booking stays of a week or more due to the increase in remote working. Now, despite the increase, Airbnb expects this year's revenue to be half of what it was last year. Even so, Airbnb's initial public offering could still come this year.
You'd have to assume here at home that they're not seeing that big of a surge
Yes.
because we still have the quarantine and stuff, but it is interesting to see how they are seeing that uptick on the mainland and in other places that are now starting to reopen.
Meanwhile, taking a selfie while you're social distancing is easy, but a group selfie, not so much. That is, unless Apple builds the software they just got the patent for. Now, this software would allow you to invite people to be in a group selfie, and then it would remove everyone's background, their actual background, giving everyone the same background and putting them together in the same image. Now, Apple actually filed for the patent 2 years ago, but it didn't go through until early this month. As to whether or not the company will actually create and market the software, that is still unclear.
Seems sort of cheating. I mean, you want the selfie to document where you are with your friends in that place, so it's like putting a fake background there, and just seems a little bit on the cheese factor for me. I don't know.
I want to see how it works first.
We'll have to check it out. I'm not going to judge too soon. All right, let's stick with the high-tech theme, folks, because so many places are reopening, and we talked a little bit about this last week. Some are even employing robots to do work like bartending and such. All right, we got Nichelle Medina, who's reporting on those high-tech solutions.
These drones could be a valuable player when sports fans eventually return to the stands. The Eagle Hawk Company developed the flying machine to spray COVID-killing disinfectant around stadiums and arenas in just a couple of hours.
Having the drone carry the spray equipment is just much more efficient. So we can cover large sections of seats very quickly.
A number of businesses are embracing technology to keep coronavirus at bay. This robot at Hong Kong International Airport sprays disinfectant and uses UV light to kill viruses. At Pittsburgh International Airport, this self-driving cleaning machine is equipped with UV technology. So is this robot that a company in Belgium is developing. It can disinfect a hospital room in a matter of minutes.
This robot is really unique on the market. There's no other, as far as we know, concept that is similar, where it brings both the UVC light together with the robot that drives itself in a room.
This mall in Thailand has a robot that monitors shoppers by taking their temperature. And in South Korea, smart machines are serving coffee. Customers order at a kiosk. The robot barista can create some 60 different kinds of drinks. Tables are placed at a distance, and an autonomous cart is used to deliver the order. No human workers required. The business behind the high-tech brew plans to open another 30 cafes in South Korea in the coming months. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, San Diego.
Oh, the world we live in.
I know, very futuristic.
Yeah, they weren't quite CP3O or R2D2 there, but the design of some of those robots was pretty cool. I know our podcast listeners can't see it, but one sort of looked like a roving bug zapper with a blue UV light. I guess that's how it disinfects those hospital rooms that I was talking about. But the coffee one was interesting too.
Yeah.
Simple design. I don't know how I'd feel about a robot in the mall rolling up to me and asking me to take my temperature.
Yeah.
But we've already saw that technology put to use here. Remember the police drones warning people to get off the beach? Wouldn't have seen that a year ago. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right, let's talk more entertainment news. I'm going to talk about the world of art. That's because a big name artist just posted something that he's sort of getting into the movement of the Black Lives Matters movement. We're talking about British street artist Banksy. He published this new artwork. It's depicting a flag being set on fire by a candle that forms a memorial to an anonymous black silhouette figure. The artwork appeared as thousands gathered in London. We saw some of that from Ian Lee's report just a little bit ago. He also included an Instagram post, and in it he says, "People of color are being failed by the system of white people," or the white system is what he said. Always a powerful artist there, gets very political. He's been around for decades now. I remember him starting up when I was in college. It was always a mystery of who he was.
Yep.
Fascinating figure there.
Yeah, and so many celebrities are getting involved in the protests. But imagine being at a protest and Madonna is next to you. So she actually joined the Black Lives Matter march in London on Saturday, and it wasn't an easy thing to do for her physically. That's because the pop star had to walk on crutches due to a knee injury she got before the pandemic. Now, the music icon hugged many of the protesters and joined in on the chanting, and I'm told she was there with her children.
Yeah, Madonna's also always staying in politics. She's always got something to say, it seems like, for sure. We're talking about this, switching gears a lot, because this next story is really fascinating and it's really trending out there on all the social feeds. It's a treasure hunt.
That's right. Everyone loves a good treasure hunt. So apparently there's a huge development in the search for the famous Forrest Fenn treasure that's worth millions. Now, apparently someone was able to solve all 9 clues in a cryptic poem and made the discovery, but there's still a lot of questions about how they did it and who it was. Here's Gaddy Schwartz.
Somewhere deep in the mountains north of Santa Fe, an 11th century treasure box filled with millions worth of gold, emeralds, and antiquities has finally been found. And online, a community of treasure hunters is going wild.
The unfindable has been found.
Forrest Fenn is an 89-year-old art collector who stashed the treasure more than 10 years ago in an effort to get people off their couches and into the great outdoors. Now telling me over the phone, a man from back east has finally deciphered the secret clues he left in a poem.
From there it's no place for the meek, the end is ever drawing nigh.
But so far, Forrest has been mum on the man's identity, saying he learned the search was over when the man emailed him a picture of the treasure and in a post describing the secret location under a canopy of stars in the lush forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains. The discovery coming after years of hundreds of thousands of people trying to find the chest that for me started as a local reporter nearly a decade ago in Santa Fe as one of the first to cover the modern-day treasure hunt. Since then, thousands have shared their own quests, like Ray and Chloe Harp, who say it's brought them closer as a family.
It's brought us together out in nature, out in sunshine. I mean, I think that was what Forrest wanted, and it gave us a perspective of the world that our children will never forget. And
today, hearing the news is bittersweet.
It feels like the last page of our favorite book.
But the story hasn't been without significant danger. There have been countless rescues, and at least 5 people have died while searching in treacherous terrain. Authorities long urging Fenn to call off the search. Despite Fenn's insistence, the treasure was hidden in a spot that a 70-year-old man would be able to reach. But today, that exact location still a mystery. Fenn saying the treasure hunter wishes to remain anonymous, and now it's his secret to keep.
Where is it?
That's no fun. Tell us.
Where is it?
Oh, man.
If you happen to be watching it and you're the person that found that treasure, A, share a little bit with me, or at least just tell us where it is. Put it in the comment thread, please.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Very cool.
His face, that husband there with his wife, it was a little sad.
Yeah, and people have died looking for it. Wow.
Oh, and like you said, a 70-year-old man should have been able to find it, so that should not have happened. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this Monday. We'll be back here tomorrow. We got a lot of coverage coming up throughout the afternoon. So far, no planned press conferences that we know of, but we're going to have several stories coming up related to the coronavirus pandemic, along with the developing news regarding George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests that's still